Thank you so much for joining us for the Q&A. I'd like to welcome writer-director Lili Horvát, the director of preparations to be together for an unknown period of time. Lili, thank you so much for joining us, and please tell us about your inspiration for telling the story.
First of all, hello, and thank you for having me. The first scene I had in mind for this film was the one where Drexler doesn't recognize Marta, or he says he doesn't recognize her, and I just had this running idea that a woman should come from a distant place, full of love and expectations, and she goes to the man she's in love with, and then the man says, "I'm seeing you for the first time in my life." And from then on, you don't really know where reality is and where the truth is and who is right and who's lying, or was it an imagination thing? So that was the starting point around which the whole story developed.
It's a really fascinating idea that you would start there, because then you get to sort of solve your own mystery. And let's talk a little bit about the fact that ultimately, I mean, we can speak about spoilers since they've just seen the film, but how difficult was it for you to determine for yourself whether or not he actually knew her and was lying at that moment?
Yeah, it was a long process actually, because for a long time I've already written several drafts, and still I had some problems with the male character, because the ending was pretty much the same, like the woman and the man coming together and starting something new, where they know already a lot of things about each other, and that is something like coming down to earth and starting this affair on a different level, and we'll see what comes out of it, but that's not something our film wants to discuss. And so that was already the goal I wanted to reach with the end scene, but I had some problems with the, I didn't want the man to turn out to be a bastard, at the end of the film. I had some problems with giving him also justice. And then I realized, by the way, I realized it in the editing room already. We had a shooting day where we shot that scene with Drexler in front of the door and confessing his own story, and I had the impression that it's wonderful, and she acted like brilliantly. And then I even texted him that night that, "Oh, you acted so gorgeously," and he texted me back, but but the text was so good. And then in the editing room I realized that something is still cheesy there and self-pitying, and you don't manage to as the viewer to understand him and still like him. And then I realized that we should come to the conclusion that that there are different interpretations of an encounter between two people, and it can be, one party sees it totally differently. We are not chatting with each other, and maybe you have a totally different feeling about this than I do. And it's, it goes at a higher stake when we are talking about the love story.
Although her interpretation of events aren't just emotionally different, it seems like they're actually different sort of set of details, because we're hearing it as a sort of unreliable narrator through the conversations with the psychiatrist. So I guess tell us from that initial scene that you had in mind, how did you go about developing her point of view for what had happened, because that really drives our understanding, our point of view of the story well into the film, until the point at which you start to get his side of things.
What do you mean by opening scene? Which film?
Your original opening idea. Sorry, not the
Okay.
opening scene of the film.
Okay. Okay. Well, I definitely wanted to be in her head and playing with her own consciousness, you know, and talking about the immense role of projection in the nature of love, you know, and that's of course we are telling here an extreme story or an extreme situation, is what we are talking about, but I think that the fact that like projecting a lot of things onto the person you have just fallen in love with, and that later it comes out that it might have told more about you than about the other person. I think that is a common experience that almost all grown-up people have stories about, and yeah, and I somehow wanted to grab that.
I found that to be incredibly relatable. You know, with the exception of the extreme lengths to which she goes to pursue it, it definitely felt like something, you know, certainly I've experienced in my own life. But you do wind up revealing late into the film just everything that's sort of been sacrificed in her life back in the United States. Tell us about writing that part of the film, because it does complicate things, you know, where we see this, you know, we see her story as sort of romantic, then it becomes a little bit tragic too. And you know, that's a complicated thing to add, a layer to add to her story, because it's all of a sudden really does make you think about the sacrifices and the choices that she's made. And you know, I'm curious to know a little bit about how you got to that place.
Yeah, I felt that first I decided the woman to be not in her first youth anymore, because I felt that, you know, at approaching 40, you know, you have more to put at risk already, and again I wanted to raise the stakes of the story, and I felt that to underline the importance or the meaning of this encounter in her life, I have to make her sacrifice something. And at first I've been thinking of some sacrifice in private life, a relationship, or a family even. And then I felt that it wasn't appropriate somehow, and then I went for this professional this sacrifice in her professional life, and it was extremely important for me that she doesn't sacrifice her profession itself, because she does it. She's an amazing neurosurgeon, and she still is and can operate in Budapest. Only it's worse circumstances, but it's a sacrifice that I myself would do for something that is the love of my life, and I don't think that that it's silly to do, or you know, like not doing your profession would be something stupid and too big a sacrifice, but I thought that it was still affordable.
I have to say I was relieved that the her work actually was, you know, that she never sort of like slipped professionally as a result of everything that was sort of going on in her life. I feel like films in general set up an expectation you know, that you're sort of like waiting for something to happen in that sense, that she would have some sort of problem while in surgery or something like that. And I really appreciated that that didn't happen. Can you talk a little bit about, a little bit more about her position as a woman in that hospital coming from the US, sort of how you wanted that to be represented?
Yeah, sure. It's yeah, obviously there is some male dominance in the Budapest hospital, and that reflects pretty much the situation in Hungary. That in this top field of medicine, it's yeah, I've met a lot of really wonderful doctors, brain surgeons who helped me really a lot in this film and developing, and we even shot there and even in the editing, but these were only men. You couldn't find one single top neurosurgeon in that department of the best hospital for that in Budapest. So it was yeah, it was not something I had to make up myself. And yes, and obviously I don't know, you see it from a closer perspective, being in the US, but as we imagine that in Eastern Europe, that yeah, we imagine that your doctors work under far better circumstances than the doctors here in Budapest. So I thought that yeah, that would be I think the dramaturgical cliches are our friends, and when developing a screenplay, and you can make the viewer feeling comfortable in his or her chair watching this, and then you can turn a situation upside down suddenly. For instance, that's something that yeah, I'm happy that you're about what you were saying, that you were expecting her to yeah, mess up that surgery, and then it goes into a different direction. Like with that that date at the beginning, you know, this situation, that waiting in vain at a bridge, at a rendezvous, you know that you've seen it a dozen times already, and then it yeah, goes maybe into a direction that you haven't seen before.
Tell us a little bit about incorporating the sessions with the psychiatrist, because I think that it's sort of, I mean, it operates as a way also of narrating the story, but it also kind of operates in a, I guess, almost in like an atemporal parallel to the story, in the sense that you're never really sure exactly when it's taking place, you know, in her life.
Yeah, that's actually a decision we made in the editing room. It wasn't meant to be like that in the screenplay. These were longer scenes, and not exactly at these places where they are now in the film. And we just felt I worked with a really great editor, Károly Szalai, and we felt that we should emphasize this relationship towards reality, which is quite special for Marta, and we should reflect that in the structure of the film itself. And then we decided to make those scenes more fragmented and more uncertain in time, and then it suddenly started to work like an inner monologue or narration, as you said.
So I wanted to ask about some of the difficult decisions in terms of character representation. We talked about the male lead, and I'm curious also if you could talk about the fact that you also subvert the expectation. He doesn't have a wife, you know, he's not cheating on someone. He does have a family life that's complicated, but but that does obviously affect the way that we think about him. So tell us a little bit about that decision and anything else that was sort of really difficult for you to sort of land on in terms of, I guess, a moral decision for the characters or representationally.
Yeah, actually, in the screenplay, he had a wife for quite a long time, and then in the last couple of drafts, I left the wife out, and then I decided that it should be about something else. It should be about an inner conflict and not something that is rooted in a third person, you know, and it should be about. You know, it's a 40 plus guy, and everyone has already stories behind him, if you know, if at that age. And you can't, the thing what this woman has to face is that if you're not 20 anymore, or not a teenager anymore, and the one you're in love with is not either, then if you truly want him, then you know, you have to incorporate all those stories and past into your relationship, because it doesn't yeah, it only goes that way. And the thing that she's building up in herself doesn't really include those elements of the person she's in love with. And in this way, it's a kind of coming of age story of a middle-aged woman, if you like. So yeah, she has to understand that.
You know, I found that those kinds of decisions are really what's part of the brilliance of the screenwriting, which is that you're constantly sort of presenting situations that in the vast majority of films would go in one direction, and you subvert that expectation. And it's, I mean, besides being really refreshing, it also moves you into this sort of territory where you don't really know how to expect where the film is going to go, because it's avoiding cliches. And I think that that brings us to sort of the end of the movie and where it leaves these characters, because that's also subversive, because, you know, we sort of, we see them in kind of a place where you know that they're moving forward, but it's not like, you know, it's not ending in a wedding and it's not ending in a death, you know. It's sort of like, okay, this is like the next day in their lives, but that is also, I sort of like leaves a lot up to your own interpretation of, you know, how, you know, where they're going to go from here. So can you talk about writing the ending?
Sure. I always wanted this ambiguity I already was talking about. And, you know, I think this is how life is. You know, you don't move in together right away. And it's maybe you're dreaming about this like ending in a wedding, and like Hollywood films do a lot of times. But I think this ending is closer to life. That, yeah, as you just said, that that it's only the next day, and then we'll see how it can develop. And I know that yeah, this loudspeaker as a black cloud hanging over her, it's a bit yeah, gloomy, but yeah, it depends on the viewer actually, how he or she sees this ending. Or as far as I see it, a lot of people have already seen the movie, and and I've heard so many interpretations, so many really different interpretations. Some consider it, wow, I'm so happy, it's a happy ending after all this, And others say, I've heard that it's a farewell present, this loudspeaker, for instance. Wow. And I am somewhere in between, this that this is something like, okay, we'll see. I didn't imagine a guy with 2 kids and 2 big loudspeakers, but maybe, but I have something to do with this guy, and okay, we'll see. That's what I think, how that situation is.
There are so many points for sort of audience interpretation. Is there anything else that sort of surprising along the way in terms of how audiences have reacted to the film?
It doesn't surprise me, but I saw that there are a lot of different interpretations throughout the story, and I always wished myself an active audience, because this story really is meant to become a whole one once the audience puts its own fantasies and memories and stories and projections into it. So it was always meant to be like that, and I'm really happy that it works. It really works that way. So I think that this film mirrors the viewer a bit, and that's something I like, because it has something to do with the essence of the idea for this film.
I read that you premiered the film at Venice,
and then at TIFF.
And Venice is one of the rare festivals that actually happened in person.
It is, yeah.
What was that experience like?
Well, it was truly amazing. It's always so frustrating to have a completed film and then waiting for what will happen. Will it disappear? Will it, get somewhere? And we always had this ambition to land with this film in Cannes or Venice or Berlin, and then the film was already ready, and then it was shortlisted for the Cannes Film Festival, and then we got a letter that the whole festival will be cancelled, and then I thought that okay, that was it, because in Venice every film that was aspiring for Cannes and for Venice, it will all that will be so crowded, we don't have a chance. And then we were really lucky to be selected among the first ones. So it was already the midst of the spring quarantine last year. It was such a blessing, and the fact that we managed to go there was amazing, but still I had mixed feelings, because it was a beautiful festival with less people than usually, but still a really big event and a big celebration, and everyone was so touched that okay, something like that can take place, and etc. But it normally I would have celebrated the opening with the whole crew, and everyone would have been there, and it was at the end one of the producers and the lead actress and myself who managed to get there with all the restrictions. But it's a strange and challenging year for all of us, and I'm saying to myself, that I want to remember 2020 and 2021 the way that it was so bad with the film festivals, and I couldn't travel with the film, but it will be still okay for me. And
well, so the film is it does have a US distributor, so I'm curious to know if it's coming out soon. I mean, I know we're doing this in conjunction with the awards campaign, but is there a release date set with?
It's been already released. Yeah, last week or last weekend, I guess, or the one before the last. I'm not sure. Yeah, so it's already out, and yeah, you can stream it in the US, so in virtual cinemas.
And of course, you just got nominated for a Spirit Award.
Yeah, which I'm extremely happy about. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is one, like I said earlier, absolutely one of the best films I saw all year. So I'm very excited to see where things go from here. So I'm pulling for you.
Thank you.
So we'll let you go because I know that our time zone differences are quite extreme. But I really, really appreciate that you took the time out to come and join us from the other side of the world to share some of the magic behind making this film.
Thank you so much.
Trying to pull out the last bit of Hungarian I know. Köszönöm szépen.
Én is köszönöm szépen.
It was a real pleasure to talk to you, and best wishes for the Oscars.
Thank you so much.